Okay, so let's take a look at number 7. On number 7, remember it was asking you to reflect across the axis y equals -1. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure out where that line of reflection is. Okay, so y equals -1. That one is going to be down on the y-axis at -1. I'm going to put a point, so everyone put a point there. And then you're going to, this line only has y's, it doesn't have x's, so it never gets to cross the x-axis, so this is your line of reflection right here. Does that make sense? Okay, so go ahead and place your line of reflection right there through y equals -1. Okay, all right, now we're going to go ahead and graph the points. Okay, so 0, -2 is right there. Okay, that would be n. Okay, and then 4, 0. Oops, sorry. That's not where n belongs. 0, -2 is right here. This is where n is. Okay, then 4, 0 is over here. So that's where r is. And then 1, -4 is down here. Bless you. Okay, so now we can go ahead and connect those points. Bless you. Okay, and so there's your, where your pre-image goes. Okay, so now we want to reflect across the axis y equals -1. So what that means is it means everything is going to be moving to the opposite side. Okay, so if everything's moving to the opposite side of that line that we highlighted, okay, r is going to end up one space away on the opposite side. So this is where r prime goes. Does that make sense? So we're flipping r over the line an equal distance. Okay, n would end up above the line. So n would end up right there. So now n prime is above the line up there. Okay, one space above. All right, and then last, f would end up, it's 3 spaces below the line. So f prime is going to be 3 spaces above the line. Does that make sense? Okay, so now here is where your new shape ends up. Okay. Are there any questions on what we did on that one? Okay, remember you can do the counting method or you can do your trace paper. It's up to you which way is better, okay? Okay, on this next problem set, it says draw the line of reflection for each image and its pre-image, okay? So it's already given us the original and the after, right? It's given us the before and the after. It's already done the reflection for us. So all we're trying to do is find where the line of reflection is, okay? So here's how you can find it pretty easily. What you can do is you can take 2 points, like a set of, I guess you could call them corresponding points, for example, like u and u prime, okay? I'm going to take u and u prime and I'm going to connect them. And I'm going to count how long is that line. So how long is that line? 4, okay? What's half of 4? 2. So I'm going to put a point that's halfway through this line, okay? Then I'm going to connect another set of, like a pair, another pair. So I could do, for example, d and d prime. So I'm going to connect those. Okay, where's halfway through this one? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units long. So what would half of 8 be? 4. So 4 halfway would be here, right? Or I could have used this set of points too. That was 2 units apart, so half of 2 would be 1, okay? And then I could put my point there. Now, what I'm going to do is these midpoints of the lines, okay, that I created between the pre-image and the image are basically creating the line of reflection. So if I just connect these points, this blue line that I drew, let's call it line L, this is your line of reflection, okay? Now in this case, your line of reflection happens to be the x-axis, right? The x-axis is actually the line of reflection, all right? It's not always going to be on an axis. Okay, so let's take a look at problem number 9. Okay, so for problem number 9, let's connect a pair of points. Okay, which pair of points would you guys like to connect? X? Okay, so let's go ahead and connect X and X prime. Okay, now for this set, it's kind of hard to just count and tell exactly where the middle is, right? But it looks like I moved like 3 diagonals, I guess you could say, to get from X prime to X, right? So what's half of 3 diagonals? 1.5, right? So wouldn't you guys say the midpoint is right in the middle here? Does that make sense? That's where the middle of that diagonal would be. Are you guys following that? Okay, so now let's connect another set of points. I'm going to do I and I prime. Okay, so there's I and I prime. How many diagonals did we move to go between I and I prime?
4.
4 diagonals, right? So what's the middle of 4 diagonals?
2.
2 diagonals. So my midpoint would be right here, right? Okay, now all I have to do, and I could do a whole other set of points like J, but that's not really, all I need is 2 points to determine a line, right? So all I have to do is connect these 2 blue points to each other, and that will give me my line of reflection. Does that make sense? So here's my line of reflection line out. Okay, so to determine the line of reflection, all you're doing is connecting the pre-image to the image and finding the middle of that line. Okay, you have to do that for 2 sets of points, so then you can go through both of them to determine the line of reflection. Okay, are there any questions on what we did there for drawing the line of reflection? Okay, so for numbers 10 and 11, is it asking you to do the same thing? Okay, so I want you guys to try number 10 right now, okay? So I'm going to pause for a minute and then you guys can try number 10, see if you guys can get it. Okay, so let's go ahead and check your work on number 10. Hopefully you connected these ones here and these ones here, okay? Now, if we're looking for the middle, you could kind of use the slope of this pink line to help you count where the middle is, right? If I go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, that's like 2 sets of using that slope for the entire line, right? So the middle of this line is actually going to be right here, this point. Does that make sense on that? Okay, and then I can use the slope of that line again, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, to help me find the exact precise middle, right? And so the middle would be in the middle of that pattern that I did, right? Does that make sense? So all you're doing is you're looking for the pattern in the line and finding the middle of it, okay? How many of you got the middles in the right place? Raise your hand. Okay, good. So now all we have to do for our line of reflection is just connect. Yeah, that's an ugly line. Let me fix it. Okay, just connect through that line. Does that make sense? And that's your line of reflection right there, okay? All right. Why don't you guys go ahead and try number 11 really quickly, okay? Give number 11 a try. Okay, so let's go ahead and check your work on this one. Okay, so for this one, me personally, I would probably connect Q to Q prime, okay? And then I would probably also go with R and R prime, okay? Now, when I'm taking a look at this one and I'm using kind of the slope to help me, it's like down 2 over 1, right? Or sorry, over 3, yeah? Down 2 over 3 and then down 2 over 3, so it looks like the middle's right about there, right? Okay, when I do the slope over here again, it's down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3, so the middle looks like right about there, okay? So now I can go ahead and just connect between those points to get the middle, okay? And so here's my line of reflection right there, okay? How many of you got the line of reflection correct on that one? Okay. Now, if you're not sure about how to find the middle, do you guys remember that there's such a thing called a midpoint formula? Do you remember that? Okay. Does anyone remember what the midpoint formula is? All right, so to find the midpoint using a formula, we do the x's added together divided by 2. That's the first part of the ordered pair, right? And then we do the y's added together divided by 2, okay? So say you got a line and it was like kind of funky and you weren't exactly sure where the middle was by identifying it visually. What you could do, for example, like point Q, we could take the ordered pair from point Q and the ordered pair from point Q prime and put them into the midpoint formula. Does that make sense? And that would give us the exact middle point, okay? So for example, what's the ordered pair on point Q? Point Q is what? -2, 4? Isn't that its ordered pair, its location? And what's Q prime's location? Over 4 up 2. Okay, so if I were to take these 2 points and put them into the midpoint formula, I would get that the midpoint is going to be -2 plus 4 divided by 2, and it's also going to be, for the y value, 4 plus 2 divided by 2. Okay, well, what is -2 plus 4? 2 divided by 2. And what is 4 plus 2? 6 divided by 2, right? Okay, what's 2 divided by 2? 1. What's 6 divided by 2? 3, right? So 1, 3 is the midpoint between Q and Q prime. Well, isn't that what we visually graphed right here, 1, 3? I mean, if I go over 1, up 3, it's right there, okay? It's on my line of reflection, right? So if you ever get a line where you're having trouble visually identifying, you can use the midpoint formula to help you, okay? But I think most of the lines on the homework you should be able to visually identify. Does that make sense? Visual identification is a lot faster by counting and using the slope to be precise, okay? But if you are counting and using the slope and it's not working out for you, use the formula to help you find the middle, okay? Any questions on what we did today? Anything at all? Okay.